Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. Normally we do our tapings in New York at the United Nations and other venues, but this week we're on location in the Dominican Republic. And what we're trying to do is to focus attention on some very unique institutions in the Dominican Republic that are promoting unique technological, economic, and developmental activities. And today we have the honor of visiting with a gentleman who heads up a really interesting agency. Marco Herrera is the executive director of the, what's called in Spanish, Fundación Global Democracia y Desarrollo, in English, Global Foundation for Democracy and Development. Marco, I appreciate you being with me this morning. Thank you so very much. Let's talk about your agency, the Global Foundation for Democracy and Development. It's a very interesting concept. What exactly does it do? When was it started and why was it started?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, Will. I will tell you that the Global Foundation for Democracy and Development, FUNGLODE, as it is known by its acronyms in Spanish, was created in the year 2000 by then former President Leonel Fernandez. And it's a unique think tank in the Dominican Republic. It's a center. It was created as a hub for proposals for public policy, research, and academic activities. Throughout the years, the scope of interest of the foundations has widened considerably, and today we are mainly in the general activities of sharing knowledge, identifying new trends, and bringing them into the Dominican Republic. And as you and I will discuss in this time, you will see that we now engage in a very diverse range of activities. So it was created in the year 2000 by President Fernandez, who just having stepped out of office, he foresaw that the way in which he would have an impact in the Dominican Republic and in Latin America in general was through an institution of this kind that did not exist in the Dominican Republic at that time, a think tank in which members of the academic, diplomatic, and professional sectors can come together, discuss critical issues related to development, and come up with proposals for public policies.
Now we're going to talk about many of those interesting initiatives in just a moment, but let's talk about a basic concept, democracy. It's very important. It's promoted. The majority of the people around the world live under some form of democracy. Democracies are different from country to country, but when we say democracy, how would you define that basically? I know if we had 3 people in this room, we'd have 4 definitions of democracy, but how do you define it?
That's exactly what democracy is, that example that you just set out, that if we had many people in this room and we wanted to come up with a definition, that several concepts would come out. And, but I think it's in its most basic form, democracy can be summed up in 2 principles. And first one is the will of the majority, and second, the inclusion of everyone. The will of the majority in the sense that most of the people, of the actors in one community or society have a way of having its will being traduced or translated into actions by the state of the government. That's one of the principles, in my opinion, the will of the majority. And the other one is the inclusion, that the minorities, also are included in each one of the public policies that take place in the community. So that's where you, to my opinion, where you can find democracy, the balance between the will of the majority and the inclusion and the protection of minorities.
How do you see democracy and development going hand in hand, in tandem, working together?
Exactly. That's exactly how I see them, how you describe it, working together. I would not, it would be hard to defend the argument that one is a cause of the other, because of course we now have examples of places in the world where there is no democracy and yet the development is undertaking place in a very fast way. But it is not the ideal manner of development. I think with democracy, with the will of the people respected and the protection of the minorities respected, I think that development can find a more smooth and easy way into taking place. Although one and the other is not development, but they should work hand in hand. And one perfect example of that is, of course, the United States, in which you have a basic democracy which has worked hand in hand with the development of the country.
And normally in a democracy, it's a peaceful situation, peaceful transfer of power, and it's very difficult to develop, for a country to develop economically and socially, if there's conflict, if there's hatred or racism or a civil war going on or something. So it's very hard to
Political stability. Political instability is always something that burdens, that hinders significantly democracy, and that's something that has happened in Latin America in the last in the 60s and the 70s. That when you had turmoil and constant civil wars, coup d'états, that prevented development from taking place. On the other hand, a very interesting analogy is that when you had strong dictatorships, as we did have in Latin America, then that brought stability in expense of democracy, of course, but that brought some level of development also. So it's a very interesting concept, and it's a very delicate balance when you are talking about democracy and development. But those are two concepts that should work hand in hand, without a doubt.
Now, I'm sure that a large number of our viewers would like more information on the Global Foundation, and they can go to funglode.org, funglode.org.
That's right, funglode.org. Or they can just Google a Global Foundation Democracy, and then you will get then our local website and the GFDD website, which is the sister institutions that we have in the United States with offices in New York and in Washington. FUNGLODE mainly maintains those offices in order to keep up with everything that's going on with every agency of the United Nations. That's a significant part of our work. So just by Googling FUNGLODE or Global Foundation Development, you will get access to both our sites. You will get lots of materials on what we do. We have video archives of in which we have hundreds of hours of digital content of most of the conference that we hold here, and most of the workshops and encounters that we do hold here at FUNGLODE.
Well, it's certainly a very interesting website, and I'm sure many of our viewers will go to it. Let's talk a bit about, you mentioned the United Nations a moment ago, and of course the UN has been promoting human rights around the world, promoting democracy and virtually every one of its programs, but the United Nations in 2000 came up with the 8 Millennium Development Goals, and these were agreed to by basically 189 of the UN member states, and these were 8 logical, measurable goals to reduce abject poverty by 50%, to reverse the AIDS epidemic, to promote sustainable development, to enhance cooperation, international cooperation for economic development. How does your program, or how do your programs tie into achieving those development goals? And I'm really interested because the Dominican Republic was selected as one of the 8 pilot projects around the world. Out of the 192 member states in the UN, the Dominican Republic was one of the 8. So how do you help promote those goals? Well,
that's correct. Being the Dominican Republic one of the pilot projects, we as a think tank always try to promote and create the academic platform so that Dominican society is aware to bring the concept here into the local arena, so that we know what is exactly the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals. How do they affect me? How is my country doing engaging in public policy in order to achieve to the highest degree possible those Millennium Development Goals? That is something that is very linked to the thematic agenda that we develop here in FUNGLODE. So we have we have a center, to give you an example, that studies and spreads knowledge about education, the role of education, how can we improve education, but also climate change. We have a center that studies the impact on the environment, why climate change is important. So each one of the MDGs, I would say, have a hub, an academic hub here at FUNGLODE that engages in several interchanges, workshops, conference, activities mainly that seek to create awareness collective awareness of what those MDGs are and how can we as a country achieve them to the highest degree possible.
And by focusing attention on them, you mobilize people to come together to work on them, and they're all very, very important. I'm just curious, who are some of your partners? You mentioned that you have wide outreach. Who are some of your partners in the Dominican Republic, say in the private sector, say in with the universities, and then we can talk about partners outside of the Dominican Republic, but who are some of them within the DR?
Well, within the DR, I would say that the main academic institutions in the Dominican Republic have key alliances with the FUNGLODE. We work closely with them because we exchange target public into which our activities are directed. We change proposals for public policy. So most of and mainly because of the structure of let's say, of the academic world in the Dominican Republic, the main centers are, of course, the universities. So Pucamaima, UNIBE, APEC, which are the main universities in the Dominican Republic. Yes, Pucamaima is in Santiago and has a campus here in Santo Domingo. It's one of the most prestigious universities in the Dominican Republic. UNIBE is also one of the finest higher learning institutions, and APEC, among others. We have key alliances with the local universities, and also the think tanks or the NGOs that promote collective interests in general. We always work together with them on promoting each one of them's agenda. So we constantly want to be here exchanging what the needs of public policies are, what the trends that need to be taking place in the Dominican Republic are. We are in a constant discussion about these issues, and that is something that we like to do by being inclusive, very inclusive of all the institutions or similar institutions here in the Dominican Republic. Internationally, we have always had the objective of securing key and prestigious alliances and with think tank and centers of studies around the world. Today, after 10 years after being created, we have agreements of collaboration agreements with more than 200 universities in Spain, France, Italy, Germany, of course, the United States, and we're right now working our way into Asia as well, because we want to be as spread and diverse as possible to be able to bring any new trend, any new idea, any new concept, to bring it locally here to the Dominican Republic so that people is aware of what's going on around the world. So with that objective in mind, I would say that the main universities in the United States have in some way or other agreements with the foundation. We also have, of course, key alliances with multilateral agencies. Of course, as an NGO, we need to have the support of multilateral agencies. So the IDB, the World Bank, the CAF, Corporación Andina de Fomento, which is now a significant participant in this sort of academic activities in Latin America particularly. We seek out institutions like that to partner with us. The European Commission is another example of an institution that is always looking out to support institutions like FUNGLODE. And of course, the United Nations. This institution has a consultative status before the United Nations. We are part of ECOSOC, and we are a very active part of ECOSOC. And as I was telling you,
Economic and Social Council.
Yes,
of the United Nations.
correct. And as I was saying, the main purpose on why we maintain an office in New York is to be closely and directly and constantly connected with the United Nations and every agency, every initiative, and everything that's going on there in order to bring it here into the
Let's take one, for example. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, has worked with journalists around the world to train journalists so they can be investigative journalists, they can operate in democracies, those types of things. You've had programs with UNESCO. What is one specific program that you've had with the UNESCO as sort of an example of linking with the
Yes.
United Nations.
And it's a perfect example. UNESCO, we've partnered with them in order to work and promote the study of social sciences in the Dominican Republic. There's something very prestigious, a very prestigious program from UNESCO, which is the UNESCO Chair or the UNESCO Cátedra, which is the UNESCO lecture at a university level. We in FUNGLODE in the Dominican Republic, we have the UNESCO lectures, which is a very prestigious and rigorous program that they have in order to promote and highlight the importance of the study of social sciences. So that's one example of one program that we have with UNESCO. The Summer School of UNESCO, which is the program in which most social scientists that work around the institution gather together and discuss the new trends that are going on in social sciences. We held up that summer school here in FUNGLODE in the Dominican Republic in the year 2009. And so in general terms, we're always looking out for new programs that we can work with them. One particular program that just came in my mind, and I wanted to, because we're very excited about it and very proud about it, we have what we call the Global Film for Peace and Development. And that's a program that is sponsored by UNESCO, and that's done in partnership by FUNGLODE and UNESCO. And what we do is the following. To give you a brief introduction on this matter, I will tell you that one of the areas that we have worked significantly in the last few years is the development of the film industry in the Dominican Republic. And we've done that by promoting new public policies, by offering several training programs for people that work in multimedia, camera operations, script writing, film production, in order to enhance and to get the film industry in the Dominican Republic moving ahead and taking off. So with that goal in mind, we created a program called Global Film for Peace and Development with UNESCO. And what we do is we bring around 20 to 25 young film students from around the world, mostly from areas in conflict. And to give you an example, last year we had students from Israel, from Palestine, from Iran, from Colombia, from Venezuela, from places that have conflict. They come from conflict areas, and what they undergo a training program together, a 4-week training program in film production, script writing, and that's the first stage of the program. The second stage is they have to undertake together the creation of a short production. So then you have the Iranian and the United States students first taking the course together, but then the two of them together engaging into the creative process of doing one short film or documentary. And of course, the basic message of that production has to be peace, understanding, family values. It has to have a positive message. It's a very successful program. Last year, it was a beautiful commencement ceremony. And the students, by undergoing that process together, a lot is learned from them personally, and it's a lot that they project to the outside world. That, of course, it's always possible to live in peace, engage in creative process together in peace.
And you bring people with different ideas who are in conflict zones, but they come together to work on a consensus project.
Correct.
Very, very
so
important.
they undergo the creative process together, and that's a program that is we do jointly with UNESCO.
With UNESCO.
Yes.
You mentioned the film industry, which is very important. When you mentioned that, I remember seeing Omar Sharif in one of your brochures. You apparently have utilized highly visible stars and people like Omar Sharif. What type of program is this where you bring them to the Dominican Republic?
Yeah, well, as I said, the film industry is something that we have undertaken with a keen interest. So among all the things that we do, we have the training programs, but also we have a film festival to promote the Dominican Republic as a hub as a place for film production. The film festival has underwent its 4th edition this year, and it's an event that has taken a prestige regionally. So people in the region are always waiting for the festival. It's the only international film festival that takes place from the Dominican Republic. So we've been able to create that institution that has its own life and its own prestige. So each year we invite one or several stars that will take part in the film festival, that will receive some sort of recognition for their career in film production. So that's how Omar Sharif came last year in the 2009 edition of the film festival. He came, he received the Lifetime Achievement Award from a film festival, and he was able to enjoy a few days here in the Dominican Republic and be able to assess directly the blessings of our country. It was a great connection with him, and he's now a passionate promoter of the Dominican Republic as film production. Last year we had here Claudia Cardinale, Benicio del Toro. Each year more and more renowned personalities of the Hollywood industry come in order to promote awareness of all the benefits that the Dominican Republic can have as a place for film production, and that's what we are very involved in. We want to promote the development of the film industry.
You have a very unique program. It's a program that encompasses a lot of ideas, a lot of concepts, a lot of players. Are you being looked at as a, excuse me, a prototype or as a case, a model for other countries? Or other countries looking at what you're doing to emulate and to maybe set up something similar in wherever it might be, country A or country B?
Well, I can say we hope we are. I can tell you that we have had a very positive feedback and response from many visitors that come into FUNGLODE, into the Global Foundation, and they're able to assess the uniqueness and the diversity of the activities we do. We have had requests from advisory from other countries and from former heads of states as well that want to create a similar institution, an academic institution like this one. So yes, I humbly and very proudly have to say that this is we have portrayed ourselves as a very unique institution, and we're very proud about it.
Well, it is a very unique program, and it's one that not only touches the lives of Dominicans in the Dominican Republic, but also can be used to help people in other countries and around the world and in international institutions to realize how important it is to develop some mechanism to convey what's going on in their country, to promote democracy, to promote development, to work on the Millennium Development Goals that we had just discussed a few minutes ago, to do a variety of other things to help bring a country together, to bring the peoples together, to work for a common goal. And it certainly looks as though you're certainly doing that. And again, if our viewers would like more information on this program, they can go to funglode.org, FUNGLODE, and get a lot more information and look into great detail in the programs that we've been talking about today. We could look a little more about what Omar Sharif did and some of the other celebrities who have been here. And it has really been a fascinating experience to learn more about it. I did not know a lot about it before I had a chance to visit with you, but Marco Herrera, I want to thank you so very much for a very interesting and a very informative program.
Thank you very much, Bill. I want to thank you for the opportunity that you've given us to project a little bit and inform a little bit of what we do and who we are and what we do.
My pleasure. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us on today's Global Connections program.